All right, race fans, Ryan Aho here and the Burt Lehman bringing you episode 57 of the One to Go show. Man, we're kind of just chomping away here. I mean, like I said before, I mean, there's really no off season. I mean, we had plenty of racing action this holiday weekend that we just had. We got plenty of racing action coming up. I mean, I don't think it ever stops. There really is no off season anymore. But before we get into a weekend review, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor there, Frank Zulli, Zulli Race Engines. Actually, I did a pretty neat interview with Parker Anderson on Dirt Race Central. And he is a young gun, 17-year-old street stock driver from over in Wisconsin. This kid won a bunch of races, some pretty big specials. And he said the biggest thing that changed in his program from the year before, he got an engine from Frank Zulli. Justin Vogel talked him into getting that engine. And Justin, that was great of you. Good job, right? That's your sponsor. You're supposed to do that. But, dude, he's stealing some wins from you. So if you want to run with the big boys there in the Steffes Street Stock Tour or any other class, Frank builds them all. Get a hold of Zulli Race Engines. They got a hell of a product, hell of a guy, great customer service, and you won't be disappointed. So with that said, I'm going to look at my volume here, make sure I got that turned up. So with that said, Bert, we got a weekend review. I still got this darn cough. So listeners, I apologize in advance. I still got this cough. I'm fighting this dang crap that I had going on, but this too shall pass. It just is what it is. It's going to go away. But let's start with the Turkey Classic. Like we talked about last week, Bert, there was a bunch of specials, and they all had the holiday theme, right? They all had that Thanksgiving feel to them. But the Turkey Classic down in Cocopah, Arizona, did you get a chance to catch any of the action there?
No, I didn't get a chance to see any of the action there, but I see that there was a local driver, Minnesota local driver racing down there that our listeners may be interested in hearing about.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're talking about Don Shaw. So Shaw Trucking sponsored that event. He likes to go down to Arizona for the winter. He figured if I'm going to go to Arizona, I may as well bring my race cars with. And he parked his brand new Capital chassis in Victory Lane, night number 1. Great job, Don Shaw. Night number 2, he got second. And Billy Moyer, it was interesting. Billy Moyer was there on night 1 driving Shaw's car. He didn't race it on night 2. So I don't know if they were just testing or what they were doing, but good old Don Shaw gave the legend himself a beatdown. Moyer got second, but he put a beatdown on him for sure. One thing I noticed though, Bert, traditionally that's not a big late model area, really light car counts. It wasn't even a big pay. It was more of one of those things, like I said, Don's got a place down there. He figured you can't race up north in the wintertime. I might as well bring the cars, have some fun. He'll be down there over the Wild West tour and stuff like that. So, hey, hats off to the guy. I think there's a lot of people wishing they could race down there. So congrats to him. And another one we had, now this one was interesting. Cochran, Georgia, they had, and I didn't even realize, we talked about this last week, I didn't realize there was another big paying late model show, right? $20,000 to win at the Gobbler. And heat race action got in, and that's about it. Why don't you talk a little bit about what you saw? I know you watched the heat races there. You had a couple of comments. I got a couple of comments on that as well, and then I'm going to get into my thoughts on what happened here because it was something that just fries me a lot.
Yeah, I watched the heat races there, and it was interesting. I believe it was the first heat race, a name that we've talked about before on the show because he spun out the leader on the last lap and was at the Alabama track, the marathon. Parker Martin. He's a young kid who is a throttle masher. And when I was watching it, one of the announcers said that he was on his 3rd engine of the weekend. And I can't imagine going through that many engines in one weekend. He had a blank black car, no sponsors or anything on it, so I'm not sure if he was in an accident before and they just had to put a new body on and didn't have time to put sponsors or what the deal was with that. But he's definitely not afraid to what we saw a few weeks ago was not a fluke because he's not afraid to use his car and rough up some other drivers on the track. there was some paint scraping going on. And then on the last lap coming out of turn 4, he wound up going into the wall almost head on. So, you know, I guess that's his driving style, and you know, other drivers are going to race him the way he races them. So probably the best race of the night, though, or, you know, heat wise, was Ross Bales won the 3rd heat. That was a pretty good heat. Bloomer started on the pole in his heat and pushed hard into 1 and 2 and was in 4th place by the time they were going down the backstretch. He did recover and finish 2nd by a car length when the checkered flag flew, but you don't see him, you know, starting on the pole. You don't see him do that too often. So,
well, kind of what happened there, Bert. I'm going to touch on that. It looked like Michael Page, Bloomer started on the pole. Page started outside. He come into turn 1 and he just shut the door on him. Right? He didn't. I mean, it wasn't like a horrible ran him in the infield, but it was something that I don't think Bloomquist expected. So he jumped on the brakes right away, and when he picked up the brakes, he was right into where he was going to transition, drove right up the track, boom, 2 cars got by him. And so Page, that's a guy that we kind of watched over the summer here. Mm-hmm. He put together some pretty good races. He looked pretty darn good, but like you said, Bloomer was coming, kind of has that little – car looks weird in transition. It always looks a little tight. But he started driving it harder and harder, and he was right on his right rear quarter panel at the line. So it was a pretty good heat race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. But yeah, they had 52 entries there, which was, you know, a good car count. Unfortunately,
didn't they have 25?
Oh, never mind. Okay, I was thinking of a different race. All right.
We're going to talk about that in
I got ahead of myself.
You did, yeah. And Jeff brought that to my attention, our late model expert. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. But yeah, 25 cars, 20 grand to win. Isn't that kind of crazy?
Yeah, I mean, you know, as you said leading into the segment, you know, you didn't realize there was another race that paid 20 grand to win. And it almost – and based on the drivers that were, you know, there, yeah, Bloomer was there, and there's a few other, you know, fairly decent name drivers there. But I mean, you know, you didn't have a lot of name drivers there. So I don't know how some of these promoters can put up that kind of money and not draw, you know, the big name drivers there.
Well, that's really easy. You just cancel the feature and keep everybody's money. I mean, that's kind of what, you know, I saw on Facebook. People are like, don't even get me started on what happened at Cochrane, you know, because they had the heats one day, features the next day, and, you know, the weather came in, it rained, and was it going to be a little slimy? Probably, but it's a dirt track. You can pack that in. Not a big deal. I mean, you got a 20 grand to win show. You don't cancel early. I mean, come on, you know? I mean, what are they thinking? But, you know, they knew the rain was going to come in, yet they opened up the pit gate, they opened up the grandstands, they took everybody's money, right? And then they're like, yeah, we're going to cancel it, postpone it till March, and not give anybody any refunds back. So maybe, possibly, and I don't know this, but maybe there's some history there. Maybe some drivers knew that, and they're like, if there's any chance of rain, they're just going to pull the pin, keep our money. Drivers kind of know that, so maybe that's the case. I mean, even Madden, who's you know, he's from down in that area. He's not too far from there. He says, I'm just taking the weekend off. He wasn't even racing. I figured I'd see Madden there. He wasn't there. Overton was. He's a Georgia boy, isn't he, Overton?
Yes.
Yeah, so I wasn't surprised to see him there, and he looked really, really good. I think he would have been, you know, the class of the field as he has been the better part of the year. I mean, he's been stout. But, you know, that just leads me to this. I just hate the no refund policy. Kidding me? Come on. I mean, I just simply don't get it. I know a lot of tracks do it, and we're talking to Puka. He goes, oh, man, that's the oldest trick in the book, and he's right. It is. I mean, I remember many, 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 many times that happened, but usually it's during the summer, and usually they say, look, hey, bring your wristband, backband next week, right? Not March. I mean, we're talking like several months down the line. Is it a huge deal? No, but, I mean, let's be honest. There's a lot of race fans that are on a budget, you know, especially this year with COVID and with everything going on and the holidays coming up. People are on a budget, and then that track just go ahead and takes all their money. I got a hard time with that, you know. I remember I was on the board at Hibbing. I helped at the Grand Rapids Speedway, and when things like that happen, you know, give them the option, in my opinion, to keep their wristband, right? Give them that option.
Mm-hmm.
But also, if, there could have been people from out of town or whatever.
Exactly.
Give them their money back. I mean, come on. You ain't out nothing by giving them their money back. You ain't out nothing. So why wouldn't you do it? So that just leaves a bad taste in people's mouth. It's not a good way to do business. And it's disappointing to see that kind of stuff still happens here today. So Cochran, Georgia, come on. I mean, you knew something was up when they're having like 87 classes of late models. You kind of get it, but yeah, I think that they can do better than that, and hopefully, they kind of change their ways. Now, a race that did happen was, I believe this is night number 2 of the actually, I'm wrong. It's not night number 2. This was actually the finale of the Ironman series, and it was the Leftover, another Thanksgiving-based name here, at the 411 in Seymour, Tennessee. Now, I know you watched that race, Bert. Talk a little bit about what you saw in that race. I got a couple thoughts after you chime in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it is down there, but they like having these tracks where it is just dry slick from top to bottom, and there's no cushion whatsoever, and it's slick. And I believe this was a race that started this race program started in the afternoon, and they like to just start in the daylight, race 4 different late model divisions, and they have a dry slick track. I mean, Jimmy Owens went on and won $5,000. But the race really wasn't all that exciting. I think he won by 8 seconds or something like that.
It was a ways. I mean, he's the Lucas Oil champion for a reason this year. I mean, he had a hell of a race season. He was the class of the field, but this is right in his home state. It's right in Tennessee. So I mean, why not go to that show? Right. But it did take him a little while to get the lead, right? I mean, I think it was like lap 17. He finally got by Corey Hedgecock, who I watched him over the summer too. That guy can flat out wheel a car. Yep. He's pretty quick. Yeah,
I agree. And if I remember right, there really weren't a lot of cautions in this race. It was pretty continuous.
I don't know if there was any cautions. I could be wrong on that, but it might have been green to checkered, 50 laps of distance in that one. And Ryan King, he kind of limped along the 16th place finish, but he actually won. He was the champion of the Ironman series. So hats off to Ryan King. And I think Owens lapped 8th place. So 7 cars only on the lead lap, which is, I guess, when you go green to checkered, that's going to happen.
Right.
But that's just part of it right there. There was a whole lot of lap traffic, but hats off. As slippery as the track was, right? No caution. In that whole deal down there, I don't know if you really watched. I watched kind of throughout the whole deal there. Very weird, right? I was talking to Jeff Krause, a buddy of mine. He said, "What are they doing? They time trialed like every single car. I think they had like 189 cars at the track, and they did time trials for every single one. And what's unique is the late models, the mods, and I think another class, maybe it was crate lates or whatever, that had like 40 of them. They would take the top 8 from time trials, and they'd go directly into the first 4 rows of the feature. They didn't have to race a heat. Everybody else goes into the heat race. Yeah, I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. I mean, I can see putting them up front in the heat, but kind of weird, takes away from things, right? So that was interesting. And then several of the classes, there was a lot of like the lower classes that only had like 20 cars. They didn't even have heats. They ran time trials and lined them up for the feature. And I'm like, it just don't even make sense. First of all, time trialing every single car starting at noon, that makes no sense because it's bone dry. It was bone dry, black dusty in heat race number 1 right after they had opening ceremonies. They had all the time trials in. I mean, there wasn't a lick of traction anywhere on the racetrack. I'm like, you think they go and farm it or do something, but you're right. They don't really want to build a cushion. They just left it black slick, and several of the heat races took forever because there was a lot of dust and marbles on the track. 4 classes of late models at this one, kind of crazy. But here's the deal. 52 cars at this one. Okay, this is interesting to me. So 52 cars for $5,000 to win. 25 cars for $20,000 to win down at Cochran, Georgia. And I got that information from Jeff. He pointed that out, and I'm like, man, that, I mean, maybe location, maybe there's something with the promoter, maybe there's some history. I don't really know. Tennessee is a little bit more centrally located, but that just goes to show. And here's drivers won't like to hear this. They really won't. So I apologize in advance. I'm going to piss you all off. There's no reason to pay $20,000 when you can get the same car count for $5,000.
No, I agree.
It makes no sense. Maybe Bloomquist wouldn't have gone. Maybe he would have gone to Tennessee. Maybe they would have had a couple less, but I don't know. I mean, that is a draw. I mean, when you get a Bloomquist there and you get, Overton, I mean, that's going to bring more fans, especially if they know they're coming. But, paying that kind of money, it just shows that, that's not always the case. Drivers aren't always attracted to the bigger paycheck, and this just proves it right here. 4 times the money, half the car count. Pretty interesting deal. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know what the payout was, down further. But yeah, just because you have a 20,000 to win race doesn't mean that you're going to draw more drivers. I mean, you would hope that it does, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get more drivers. And I mean, obviously, when you have double the cars at a 5,000 to win show compared to a 20,000 to win show, I think that proves that fact.
Well, I remember up in Hibbing when I was, I think it was back around 10, 11, somewhere around that area. I was driving Jeff Provenzino's late model, and during the summer we had a 100-lap, $10,000 to win. It was like 500 or 600 to start late model show. We got like 35, 36 cars. Okay, Labor Day weekend, it paid $3,500 to win each day, and we had more than that. And it's like, it makes no sense, right? I just don't get it. So, and you look at a lot of the specials, they have these big paying specials, and you just don't get the results that you're looking for with car counts. I mean, I'm thinking if you have a $10,000 to win show, there should be 50 of them for sure, but it just don't work that way. And we even paid good down on the bottom. It paid good all the way throughout, and it just didn't work out that way, which is interesting to me. But, needless to say, that show at Cochran didn't happen. The show at 411 did. Started at noon, and it didn't go till midnight, which is good. I think it ended at like 8, 9 o'clock, which was long enough. But that day racing is just blows me away. Now,
but
one race
they seem to love it down. They seem to love it down there.
Yeah, they don't know much. They don't know any better. They're down in the south. I mean, I'm sorry, but it is what it is. They just don't. I actually, like I said, I argued with a guy on Facebook. We're talking about a race that's coming up this week about the day racing. He goes, well, they got to start early, otherwise the track's too slippery. I'm like, this guy must have been either drunk or stupid, but I'm not really sure because it doesn't work that way. At least not on planet Earth where we live. Okay, so another race, Bert, that I did not get to see. I saw the results for. I was excited to I was hoping there was going to be something on Dirt on Dirt. There has not been anything posted up there yet. Is Springfield? They actually had the Turkey Bowl. It was a postponed race. They moved it back a week, and only 4,000 to win. But what intrigued me when I saw it, I looked at the results for like all the classes. I just I saw it online. They had the results on there. And most of the people that finished on the podium in all these classes started deep, including Parker Martin, who from 14th, he won the feature from 14th there. Now, I don't know if that's a different Parker Martin or the same Parker. I mean, we're talking Springfield, right? So I'm not really sure. But he won from 14th. He won this deal in 17, 19, and in 2020. So he won it 3 times, but man, there was some good racing there, so I'm hoping that I can find it online because I think that would be a pretty neat. I've never seen a race there. Have you seen any races there at Springfield?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I'm trying to find here, and I can't. Turkey Bowl. Martin charges to Turkey Bowl victory right there. Oh, my bad. I'm wrong. Okay, mark this down. Write it down. Give me crap. It's Logan Martin, not Parker Martin. Okay. All right. That clears some things up.
It's funny because when you said that he won in 2017, 2019, and 2020, Well, Parker Martin's only what, like 15 right now?
Yeah, he's just a kid. We're like, that don't make sense. There's some, and I had to look that up because you brought that up. And you're like, oh, there's something ain't right here. I'm like, I don't know. I thought I wrote it down right, but I did look that up and I caught it. I caught it for everybody. That was Logan Martin. And incidentally, I have seen him race a few times too. He's pretty quick, but from 14th, he was leading the heat race, broke a drive shaft, and so that knocked him out. But started back 14th, drove to the front, and looking at the results, there was a whole lot of passing. And now, Keith, we didn't forget about you. All right, we usually start with the sprint cars. This time we pushed it back, right? And there was some sprint car racing this weekend, and they had the Copper Classic down at the Arizona Speedway at Santan Valley, Arizona. And talk a little bit about that. I know you watched a little bit of that racing. What did you see out of the sprint car racing down there?
Yeah, I didn't see the first night, so I'll let you comment on that after I'm done. But I did watch the second night, the feature anyway, and I do have some comments about that. Kyle Larson won it. Well, he won the first night also, but he won number 44 and number 45 on the season. And earlier we talked about farming it. They didn't farm the track at the 411, and one thing I noticed when I went to Flow Racing to watch the feature for the sprint car was they were packing the track when I tuned in, and because they did some track work prior to the feature. And then I watched the feature, and it's a good thing they did the track work because it was a good racy track. I mean, it just shows you the difference, when you start at noon, run all day, and you have a track that's like glass, where compared to a track where they did a little track prep prior to the race, and it was a very racy surface. There's a cushion. Rico led the first part of the race, but actually Kyle Larson passed him, and then the caution came out, so he had to start behind him again on the restart. But it was a very fun race to watch. And I know a lot of people that I know, they call me a late model guy, and I do like late models, but I want everybody to get close to your screen, turn up your volume. That was a fun sprint car race to watch, and I'm going to have to make a point to go to some sprint car races in person this upcoming summer.
Yeah, you're right. When I was growing up, I used to love watching sprint cars. I remember as a kid, like Thursday Night Thunder, they had down at like Ascot Park and stuff. Yep. And I'd be on all night long. And I got my parents to let me have a TV in my room, and I would stay up all night watching sprint cars out in California. And that was non-winged, Wayne midgets. I think they had a little bit of everything out there. And then I really kind of the heyday. You think back to the World of Outlaws when you had, Kinzer and Lasowski and Swindell and, Mark Kinzer and Blaney and, Hodenschild and Stevie Smith and Doug Wolfgang, right? I mean, there was a big group. And, it kind of, for me anyway, I don't know if it ever really did, but for me, that kind of went away a little bit. But now it's kind of back. I mean, there's been some really competitive sprint car races, and there's a lot of up-and-comers, and there's a lot of action. So, I guess thankful for 2020 that I watched a lot of racing online, because I think I was missing out on the excitement of the sprint car world. So, Keith, I can see that smile from here. Take it easy. We like the other racing too, but it was good. Now, you talked about night number 2 that they farmed the track. They didn't do that on night number 1. She locked down. It was pretty rubbered up, and Kyle Larson won, and Macedo got by him about halfway through the race and lap traffic, and Kyle Larson and Victory Lane said, yeah, I had to be aggressive, but I didn't want to be too aggressive, because if I drove off the rubber, it was going to open up the door. So he really said I had about 4 or 5 laps there where I just wasn't very good at all. And that's when Macedo got by him and kind of challenged for the lead there. But the cream rose to the top. And, one thing I noticed about that race, Bert, not 1, not 2, but 3 trophy girls. So you don't see that very often, especially
No, you don't.
that's kind of like the motorcycle deal. But I thought that was pretty cool. And you can see the drivers up there; they kind of got their arms around them. I think they look pretty cold because it was pretty chilly down there. But yeah, that was pretty exciting stuff down there. Now, I was gonna jump up to upcoming stuff, but I think we're gonna come back to that because we talked about down at Cochrane, right? 20 grand to win, less cars.
Can I bring up one more thing?
Yeah.
I forgot. I wrote this down. During the caution of the feature the second night, I mean, this announcer was pretty, he gets, you can tell he gets excited and stuff, but during the caution, I wrote down, this is quote, "That race was so good, everyone should walk out the front gate and pay admission again."
Nice. Yeah, now you got to be careful with that because on the ones that are snoozers, you don't want to walk and get your money back. So, but yeah, the second night, the first night wasn't very good, but that race the second night, I mean, just the battle with Rico and Kyle Larson, I mean, that was quality entertainment, and Rico's up on the wheel. He's a hard charger, and them guys race against each other quite a bit. I think they're pretty tight. And Kyle Larson was, again, I mean, he was solid. And I believe that this car out on the West Coast, I should know this, but it's a different car owner than he drove for most of the year. So it looks the same, but he's got a couple different people that he's driven for. And so that's a different group that he drove for out there. And he was pretty excited because that whole group was at the track and they were able to be part of it. So kind of a neat deal. Kyle Larson, heck of a season. And he's not done yet. He's got some midget racing coming up, and he's going to try to sneak in a few more wins there. He's trying to get ahead of Sobraski. I have to look back at what Sobraski's count is, but I think he's trying to get ahead of Shane. I'm not really sure. So I think he's probably going to do it too. But let's get into this. We talked about 20 grand to win at Cochrane, 25 cars, 5 grand to win at 411, and there's 50 some cars, right? And I saw a post on Facebook here, and I don't remember what site it was on. And in fact, I could look it up while we're talking here. But I was looking it up, and they talked about, somebody just kind of posted, I know Dirt on Dirt did this a while back. They posted like their top 10 crown jewels, and this guy here posted like a list of like what he considered crown jewels. And this is a fluid argument or conversation or topic or whatever you want to call it, because what makes a crown jewel, right? See, you jump on Facebook, in our realm, most everybody talks about, it's late models. Every crown jewel they talk about is a big late model race. Does it have to be a late model race? I mean, could it be a modified race? Is there modified crown jewels? Is there sprint car crown jewels, right? What makes a crown jewel a crown jewel? Now, I got a couple questions. I'm just going to kind of throw them out there, and then I'm going to let you weigh in, first off, on what you think it takes for a crown jewel to be considered a crown jewel event. And then, I'll kind of weigh in on my thoughts a little bit, and then we'll touch on, what are we, maybe not, we don't necessarily have to have like a top 5 in order, but just name off some shows that come to mind when you think about a crown jewel event, especially in the dirt car world. So does it have to be late models? That's the big one, because, everything's late model. I don't think it just has to be late models. I think there's crown jewels in everything. Does it have to be a national series, right? Can a regional series or even a local series have a crown jewel in their own area? Is that considered a crown jewel? Is that different, right? You take the Sites Memorial up in River City Speedway. Yep, it's 9,200 to win, but that's like a late model crown jewel for our region for the WISSOTA cars. So you start looking at that. But WISSOTA 100, I got my opinions on that show. I'm going to say that is not a crown jewel, and we can get into why. It used to be. And in fact, we'll just touch on that. And I think they wrecked it, okay? And it's not the people that are running WISSOTA now. It happened years and years and years ago when they had a huge car cult. They were up over 100 mods and supers, and they decided just off a whim, you know what, this year we're going to run 2 features for the modified. That right there took away any credibility that event had, because it's like, why on earth would they do that? I mean, this ain't like equal opportunity deal. I'm sorry, you didn't get to make the feature, so we're just going to add another one to the program. So they got rid of that, thank God. But then they added a whole other WISSOTA 100, right? So they had it at Marshfield originally, went to Cedar Lake, and I mean that was going to be epic. I mean it was fixing to be like Boone Super Nationals type of deal, and then all of a sudden they decide, you know what? It's just too far to drive, for some of the South Dakota and Montana guys. So let's just go ahead and throw one up in South Dakota. And heck, they even did one year where they had a far west one, and they had 3. Now they're back to 1, but they run against the legendary 100 at Cedar Lake, which is not WISSOTA anymore. But they had such a great opportunity for that thing to be massive, and it just kills me because that could have been a crown jewel in my opinion. Now another thing is this, like I said, Canopy Mods. What comes to mind there? Boone Super Nationals for sure. Does it have to pay 25, 30 grand to win or more? I mean, is it all based on pay? Does a crown jewel have to be a big paying show, or is it a prestigious deal, right? Or is it like a long term that's been there for a long time? Or overall entertainment value, right? You start looking at some of them type of things. What makes it a crown jewel? So we'll get into the discussion in your mind there, Bert. What makes a crown jewel a crown jewel?
Well, you kind of touched on a lot of things that make a race a crown jewel. Well, first off, let me say, crown jewels aren't just in late models. Each segment of the racing community has their own. Sprint car racing, obviously, Knoxville is a crown jewel. And I would agree for modified racing. And what's interesting about this with modified racing is, well, I'm not as familiar with the USMTS, but, I can't think of any USMTS races that are crown jewels. But you think of the Boone Super Nationals, the Harris Clash in the modified ranks. But as far as what makes a crown jewel, to me, it is history of the event, buzz within the industry regarding the event, buzz between drivers wanting to win that race, buzz from the fans wanting to attend that race. And I think money, the purse, how much it is to win plays a part in being a crown jewel, but I don't think it has to be a $50,000 to win show in order to be a crown jewel. I think history and prestige of the event are probably, to me anyway, the two biggest factors as to what makes a crown jewel.
Yeah, I would agree. And one thing that, after this year, up until this year, I don't know if I would have thought this way, but watching a lot of races online, the overall entertainment value of the event itself, right? You look at the topless down at Batesville. Batesville doesn't seem like it's that exciting to me, okay? But then you look at, the Prairie Dirt Classic, right, which didn't happen this year, but any race that happens at Falls, right, is automatically going to elevate, right? But does it have to be an individual race, okay? How about East Bay, right? You take speed weeks for East Bay, and them aren't huge paying. I believe they're all around 10 grand-ish, 10, 12, aren't they? 15 maybe, I think, on the weekend. I think that's about what it gets up to.
Yeah.
So they're not like, that's not a 30 grand, that's not 40, that's not 50, but it's a series of races. And as a race fan, I look at it and I'm like, man, I would love to go to East Bay for the whole week. And that is like a crown jewel event, like a series a week, right? So how does that weigh in as compared to like the individual events like USA Nationals, World 100, the Dream? Can you slide a deal like East Bay into that because of the history, the racing, the hype, the excitement, nothing else going on, everybody wants to be there? Can that be considered a crown jewel?
In the truest sense of the word, probably fans wouldn't consider it a crown jewel because it's not one I think the perception amongst fans is a crown jewel is one specific race. We have a classic example of, you know, the Gateway. Is that a crown jewel? It pays good money, but it's a new event. You know, it doesn't have the history behind it. It doesn't necessarily have the prestige behind it either. I mean, some of the top drivers go there, but not all of the top drivers go there because it is hard on equipment.
Yes, it is.
You know, so is that a crown jewel? It pays a lot of money.
I don't think it's been long. I think I agree with you. That one ain't been long standing enough. And, you know, I think it's just what scope are you looking at it through, right? You know, as a driver, you know, you look at, let's be honest, it kind of starts with pay as a driver. It does. I mean, if you win a 50 grand to win deal, that's better than winning a 10 grand to win show. So, you know, you look at the USA Nationals and compared to any one of those races at East Bay as a driver, they'd all rather win that 50 grand to win show because it's a standalone deal. As a fan, as an enthusiast, I don't know if crown jewel maybe is the word for like East Bay. Maybe that's like a bucket list, or maybe that's like a
right,
you know, gotta see type event. So it's an interesting conversation because I saw a lot of people on that post. They weighed in and they're like, well, if this one's a crown jewel, this one's a crown jewel, and everybody had, you know, their kind of local track, their favorite track. Well, our show's a crown jewel. So it's like, it's one of those things. Well, is it? I mean, I saw things at as low as 6 grand to win up to, you know, 100 grand to win for like the Dream and the Dirt Track World Championship, you know. But, you know, so you look at some of that stuff. The Dirt Track World Championship's been around a long, long time. So is the Dream. So is the World 100. Those are obviously crown jewels, USA Nationals. But I think that's an interesting topic because everybody's got a different opinion on that. And I think what it comes down to is what's important to you, whether you're a driver, a fan, whatever it may be, what's important to you. And it's a fun conversation to have. I think it'd be kind of cool to get people kind of weighing in on their crown jewels. But if you had to throw – go ahead, Bert.
I agree with that. And I was thinking about this, and you brought it up, the Dirt Track World Championship. Now, yeah, that's a crown jewel, but that's been at different racetracks. So, you know, to me, the luster is off that crown jewel a little bit because it doesn't have that tradition of being at one track.
I totally agree, and the track it's at now is not real great. You know, it could be a lot better racing than where it's at right now too. So yeah, that's another thing that weighs in. I mean, has it stayed at the same place from inception? That's a big deal. Now, don't get me wrong. Then drivers, when they win the Dirt Track World Championship and they get that sweet looking trophy and they get that really big paycheck, to them it's a crown jewel. But in our conversation, where does that weigh in? That's another topic for discussion. But what, you know, I know you got a handful of them written down here. You know, what are some crown jewels in your mind that are like, damn, that's automatic. That one's automatic. I know you got a few written down. I got a few written down as well. What sticks out to you as far as crown jewels?
Well, I mean, obviously, the World 100 is a crown jewel to me. It's that World 100. I think the USA Nationals is a crown jewel. That has history behind it. It pays good money. Drivers enjoy racing there. It's good racing. I mean, the Dream would have to be a crown jewel, but see, I don't think the Dream has nearly the buzz that the World 100 has,
which is crazy to me because it pays way more.
I know.
I mean, it makes no sense. You're right. The World 100's got that luster, but my goodness, it pays double. What is it, 53 grand to win or something like that, right? For this year for the World 100.
Right.
I mean, obviously they both got canceled, but the Dream is 100 grand. So how that could not? That just kind of talks about, that's our argument right there, right?
I mean, I've only been to one Dream. That was in 2004. So, I mean, in 16 years, you know, I'm not sure what the crowds and stuff are like. But as far as, you know, comparing the Dream that I went to and the World 100s that I go to, the crowd, I mean, there's no comparison. It's just a whole different buzz at the World 100 than it is at the Dream.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Any other shows that really come to mind for you?
I think Knoxville. I mean, well,
which one?
sprint cars and late models.
And you talk about that because I've never been to the sprint car race, but I've watched several of them, and it's jam packed all the way around the racetrack. I mean, it's insane. And you go to the late model show, and they don't even have the back. Well, the time I went there, the background stands weren't even open. So, a Knoxville enthusiast would be like, dude, seriously, you can't even put the late model nationals on the list. Like, you got the Knoxville Nationals for sprint cars here, and then way down here somewhere, way down here is the late model portion. And
well, I would agree with that. I mean, part of me putting it on the, Crown Jewel list, and maybe this is where we refer back to bucket list. I mean, I want to see a late model race at Knoxville. I went to the Knoxville Nationals one year. It just happened to be the year that 3 straight nights of racing got rained out, and then we left Sunday morning and they raced in the afternoon. So we went there, for 3 nights of racing, saw about 10 minutes of hot laps, saw 3 rollovers in those 10 minutes. We saw a jet dryer blow up, and our joke is, because we had ice cream at Dairy Queen down there, so our joke is we went to Iowa for 3 nights and for some Dairy Queen ice cream.
What's crazy about that town is they embrace racing. I mean, the sidewalks and crosswalks, and you walk into every building there, every restaurant and hotel, they got racing stuff everywhere. I mean, that city embraces the sport of dirt track racing. Well, it's pretty cool.
And what's so interesting is that track is in the middle of the city. I mean, yes. For a track that seats that many people, it is in the middle of the city.
Yeah, I've heard stories, and I didn't witness this, but I heard stories of cars flying out of the building, landing on the street, and tires flying over into the street and across into parking lots and stuff. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's right in the middle of town. I'm going to add a couple to the list here. You talked about the World 100 and the Dream, and I hate to be that guy that puts Eldora way up on top. Like, I'm not a half-mile guy. I'm sorry. It is what it is. But the World 100, it's hard to argue that that's not number one in late model racing, because it just there's a lot of luster there. You talked about the USA Nationals. You talked about Knoxville Nationals. How about the Kings Royal? We'll get back to Eldora here, right? 175,000 to win. This coming year. We're going to get to that in a minute. But the Kings Royal is another big one for the sprint car world. That would be, the Knoxville Nationals is number one for sure. That deal was at Portsmouth. Isn't it $100,000 to win deal there? There's a couple big sprint car shows, so I believe it would be the Kings Royal, and I think Portsmouth has $100,000 to win deal. Both of, I think that's what is it? Is it Portsmouth? Is that right?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, there's another one over there that's a big paying deal. But needless to say, those are 2 big events right there. As an open wheel guy, I've never really been a huge IMCA guy. I mean, there's some things I like about IMCA, some things I don't. It is what it is, but it's hard to argue that the Boone Super Nationals is.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that is number one in modified world. And what's crazy to me, and I get it, the WISSOTA guys stick to WISSOTA, the UMP guys stick to UMP. I get it, but there's so much luster to that race. There's so much clout. Every vendor's there. Everybody talks about it. And one regret I had in modified racing is I didn't convert my car over and go to that event. Just looking at the track, it reminds me a lot of the turn and burn deals that I race at. I think I'd enjoy racing there. Not this year because it rained the whole time. I'm glad I wasn't there this year. But, that big a car count, that atmosphere, that just the history of that event, that's one that's on there for me. Another one that I have on there, and I don't know where this fits in. I really don't know the history of the track. I mean, really, it's only the last year I really heard about it. But how long has the Prairie Dirt Classic been going on? Because in my mind, just the overall entertainment value of the races at that event, at that show, at that track is unbelievable. Is that a long-standing deal, the Prairie Dirt Classic?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the history is behind that race. Because, we're talking about what makes a crown jewel. What's interesting is, you and me having a conversation about that race. We know the type of racing that goes on there, and we both agree that's a must go to event at some point. So the diehard race fans would probably consider that a crown jewel, but like the average race fan, it's you know, when you hear an average race fan, oh, World 100, Dream, you know, they start saying all these races, but that race won't come up. It's just not that well known for some reason.
I would agree with you, because honestly, up until like last year, and I think it was Troy Powers, because he knew that I moved to Illinois, and he says, Ryan, hey, Prairie Dirt Classic's coming up. You got to get there. I'm like, what is that? Where's it at? I don't even know anything about it. And so you're exactly right. And now that now that we have Flow Racing, Dirt on Dirt, we're able to watch a bunch of races from there, and there's a bunch on YouTube. I'm like, how could I have not known about this place? I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, the place is crazy good, but it's just like you said, that's something that, yeah, I would say that slides down the list, because the average person, I've talked to a lot of people this year. I'm like, man, did you see that race at Fairbury? They're like, no, I've never seen anything there. And then you show it to them, they're like, oh my God, that's awesome. So there is something to that. That's definitely down a few notches, because it's not as well known. Maybe I can see that changing though, just because of the streaming platforms and the hype and all that. I can see that maybe gaining some ground in the years to come. What do you think?
I agree. I mean, as more races get streamed, and casual race fans watch stuff online, I would imagine that that race will move up the charts a little bit on Crown Jewels. Now, that race is right before Cedar Lake. Is there a Crown Jewel that it's right after? Is it sandwiched in between two races?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look. Okay. I know that right around that time starts a whole string of big money events. So I'm not sure how that all falls in. I'm not sure if that's the first one. I know it's kind of tied in right around the same time as the Hell Tour and all that. So, so there's. I'm not sure. I'd have to.
Okay.
Now, with that said, let's end this topic with this. Give me 3 crown jewel type events that you have not been to, that are on your list that you want to go to.
Well, I'm going to say Knoxville is on that list, because I haven't actually seen a race there.
Which one? Sprints or lates?
Well, I guess I could say both of them.
There you go.
I mean, it's always kind of been my. I've always kind of wanted to go to Boone at least once, just to experience it. Oh, and one crown jewel that we haven't talked about is the Chili Bowl.
That is definitely a crown jewel. That is the race of races in the midget world for sure. I'm going to put that one down on the list here as well that we talked about, because, it's kind of cool. You talk about the Chili Bowl. You have this year's Cup champion, right? Chase Elliott's going to try that out. So that's kind of a, everybody likes to be part of that deal. Even I think Tony Stewart had a fake name a few years back and entered into that deal too. So, but yeah, the Chili Bowl is definitely another one. So your top 3 would be Knoxville. I'll just count that as one, both of them. You have the you said Boone, and what other one? I'll just count both Knoxvilles as one show.
Okay. Well, I would say the Chili Bowl also.
The Chili Bowl. So for me, just because of all the hype, I'm going to put the Prairie Dirt Nationals number 1 on the list, because I got addicted to watching some racing down at Falls, and that place was incredible. I mean, everything about that place just screams excitement. So I want to get down there to Fairbury. Another one would be the Boone Super Nationals. I mean, I'm a modified guy. That's a huge event. And then the Knoxville Nationals for the sprint cars. I was there for the late models, but the sprint car deal, is just, I mean, we're talking massive amounts of people. And, as good as the sprint car races have been, that'd be a good show to get to. So them would be my 3. Like I said, the Prairie Dirt Nationals at Falls, the Boone Super Nationals. And isn't this crazy? I mean, who in their right mind would be like, man, I want 2 of my dream racing vacations to be to Iowa? I mean, Nobody says they want to go to Iowa, but in the racing world, they got some pretty cool stuff happening over there. So,
Well,
any closing thoughts there on the Crown Jewels, Bert?
well, regarding Iowa, build it and they will come.
Yes, there you go. Hey, that movie right there, Field of Dreams. I mean, hey, you know where Doc Moonlight Graham was from, don't you?
Minnesota.
Chisholm, Minnesota. Hometown of this guy and Puka.
Oh, really? I
Yep.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there you go. Little trivia there for you. Doc Moonlight Graham.
that's-
He wasn't our doctor, by the way.
That's my all-time favorite movie. So
That movie is good. Yeah. So yeah, rewatch the movie. They talk about Chisholm, Minnesota, and they got Doc Moonlight Graham days, and they got all that going on, and that's where Puka and I are both from. Is from Chisholm, Minnesota. So pretty cool deal. And let's get into. There is some racing coming up, right? We talked about the racing that happened. We got some racing coming up this weekend, and there's more than 3 events coming up, but 3 that really kind of caught my eye, so to speak. And I'm gonna catch grief for this one, Bert, because I said caught my eye, and then I'm gonna start with a crate. I'm gonna start with a crate late model race.
I noticed that right away.
Yeah. Down at the Alltech Speedway, and the reason it caught my eye is on we're gonna be able to watch it, right? It's on Flow on Friday and Saturday. Like I said, down at Alltech, $5,000 to win for the 602 crate lights. My guess is we're gonna get to see maybe a Kyle Bronson, because he's been running quite a bit of crate stuff. So I'm expecting to see him. It'll be interesting to see if some other big names, maybe an Earl Pearson Jr. I know he's raced a little bit of that. So Cody Overton, I'm sure he'll probably be there. So it'd be interesting to see if maybe Brandon jumps in a car. I don't know if he is or not. But yeah, it should be some good racing Friday, Saturday. Heats I think heats on Friday and features on Saturday for that one. Now, I'm going to jump back to this one. But down to Texas. Now, again, I'm going to catch grief for this because 3 races I said, hey, they're upcoming. 2 of them are like B cars, right? USRA limited mods, which are like B mods, whatever you want to call them. But it's the Jerry Whitaker Memorial. Now, I raced against a Whitaker from Texas. I'm guessing it's got to be family. I don't remember his name, but we ran USMTS mods down there. That's Friday and Saturday. That's on XR, and that is $5,000 to win as well. So if you have either one of those streaming platforms, you're gonna be able to watch, either the crate late deal for $5,000, the mod deal or the limited mod deal. But I'm guessing with not a lot of mod stuff going on, you might see some open mod guys jumping into something like that. We'll have to, I guess time will tell. But the one that really catches my eye, the one that I'm probably most excited about, is night number 2 of the Driving Extreme Dirt Car Series at the Volunteer Speedway, Bulls Gap, Tennessee. The Grinch 40, $5,000 to win for that one, right? All them shows pay $5,000 to win. I think it's $15,000 to win the points. That is also on Flow, but it's on Saturday. The one thing that disappoints me with this deal, Bert, did you catch what time they start?
No, I didn't look.
Noon. Noon, right? So we're having like the main late model race of the week starting at noon. 8, count them, 8 classes of cars. They're doing that just for Puka. Puka, that one's for you. What you need to do in Puka is you got to turn the race on. Jump on early. I think time trials and stuff start earlier than noon, but I could be wrong. But it's a noon start. I can't imagine it's going to be good. I probably won't even watch it. I'll probably jump on and watch the recap. Or maybe I'll jump on to Flow afterwards and just kind of scroll through all the heats and eliminate the 8 hours of craziness. But that Extreme Dirt Car Series, I think this is year number 2 of that deal. Pretty cool series they have, kind of goes over the winter. Are you going to be able to catch any of the action from those 3 races?
I don't know if I'll catch them live. I'll try to catch some of them live. I have the grandkids over on Saturday, and I'm watching both of them by myself. So I'm sure I won't be watching any racing on Saturday, but I will definitely go in later and at least watch the features for whatever races I can. So
yeah, I'm not sure what the plans are. I can guarantee you this, Bert. I can guarantee you, I'm not gonna like flip it on at noon and watch all
Right.
that is not happening. So again, I'm getting back to the Thanksgiving theme. I'm so thankful for streaming services because we can fast forward through all the stuff we don't want to watch, and we can get to watching the races that we do want to watch. And I just don't understand, when you have a special like this, why on earth are they having 8 classes of cars? I mean, I didn't run it. I was on the board at the Hibbing Raceway. I was heavily involved with the Grand Rapids Speedway, and the problem with board type tracks is you got like representatives of all the classes and everybody's kind of involved. And if you eliminate somebody's class, you're like, well, what about me? How come my class doesn't get to run? Everybody's feelings get hurt. A promoter based track, you kind of have the deal of this is how it is. We're running this class, this class, this class, and you got plenty of racing all year long. In this, I don't know if that's just kind of like they want to include everybody because it doesn't really provide more entertainment value. In fact, I think it kind of detracts from it. What do you think?
I'm wondering if they're looking at it from a back gate thing where you have more classes, you're going to have more drivers, so you collect more money at the back gate. I don't necessarily think that's the correct way to go about trying to make money because as a fan, I mean, and I love racing, but I don't want to sit through 8 classes. I'm sorry, I don't want to.
No, and that's the thing is the track's not going to be as good either. I mean, it's hard to keep up with the track with that many classes. So I guess we're just going to have to wait from Puka. I don't know if he's going to fly down, drive down. I know he's going to be super excited to hear about this deal. So he's probably going to be making the way down there. I know that we won't be. So that brings us to the last lap. Quite a lot of little stuff going on. Bert, did you see that crash in that F1 race in Bahrain?
Yeah, I did. And I mean, I have some comments about that. I mean, the first thing that came to mind for me was, what are they doing with a guardrail as a barrier for an F1 race? I mean, most local tracks in our area have gotten rid of guardrails because they're dangerous and, and have gone to concrete walls. I don't understand how a racing organization as big as F1 would allow their drivers to race at a track that uses guardrails and not concrete walls. I mean, because what happens, it appears that the car hit the guardrail and the guardrail like sliced the car in half. And I mean, that driver then it went into a gulf of fire. I mean, he's lucky to survive the fire, but I mean, he's lucky that he survived the impact.
Yeah, that was intense. Like when they showed that, when I watched it the first time, they showed the car destroyed, right? And they showed the fire workers going over there and putting the fire out. And in my mind, like I didn't know what side the driver was on. I'm like, well, why are they focusing on the driver? I thought the driver was in the other side of the car. And it turned out he was in the front half of the car, ripped off right behind him. Like I had no idea the first time I watched it that he was even in the fire. I'm like, why aren't they going to the driver? Like they put the fire out later, go to the driver. Well, the driver was in the fire. That's a scary deal. I mean, I've seen, I guess I didn't personally see it, but I was there up at Riverview Raceways when Dennis Jones got burnt up, and that was a scary deal. Fortunately, this was gas, so it's orange, right? It's not clear, so that was good. He was able to get out, and he didn't lose consciousness, so he got out. It sounds like, I don't know how to say the name. It's one of them foreign names. Is it Romain Grosjean? That's kind of how it's spelled. I'm guessing that's probably not how you say it, but. I don't know about concrete walls, but safer barriers. I'm surprised they don't have safer barriers there. But the safety equipment, the seat belts, whatever he has for a neck support, all of that stuff. I'm very, very thankful that they have, safety equipment in these cars today that are as good as it is. Because I started racing in 1990, and my first seat, and keep in mind it was on a hobby stock, it was a 1971 Impala, but my first seat was a fiberglass, sit straight up and down, no seat cushion seat that I was skinnier then, skinny, and I could slide around in there in the belts. I mean, it was the most unsafe thing that you've ever seen in your life. And the safety equipment they have now, clearly saved that guy's life. Also, somebody was definitely looking down on him because that was vicious. Now,
Well,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was reading an article today about the crash, and they're speculating that what saved him was the halo in the car. And apparently they've just added that to the cars within the last few years. And I guess there was a little bit of controversy when they did add them because some people didn't want them added to the cars. So luckily they did add those because they're speculating that's what saved his life.
Yeah, I read that too. You're exactly right. Now that we know he's okay, he had a few burns. I think he had some broken ribs. I think minor stuff. In the scheme of things, it was minor stuff. What in the hell was he thinking? Like, we're on lap 1. He does a 3-lane change across the nose of somebody and stuffs himself in the wall. I mean, I don't want to see anybody get wrecked, but like literally, the guy's gonna watch the tape and go, "Yeah, that was my bad. What the hell was he doing?" I mean, like. We're talking about F1 supposed to be the best drivers in the world, right? All this, and he makes that was a bonehead mistake right there.
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize it was the first lap.
Yeah, lap 1 going straight across the nose of. I'm like, wow, and then they hooked, and bam, it was all over from there. But fortunately, he was okay. That was, when them things burn up, man, I'm telling you, when they hit the wall like that, it's like a video game. I don't know if you remember is it Dan Weldon that passed away in Texas? If you watched that one, and that was Indy, that was Indy, right? Not F1, but the cars kind of looked the same.
Right.
The cars were shooting off into the fence. It looked like a video game, cars crashing. It was crazy. And things are going really fast. And when they wreck hard. And like you said, glad they put that halo deal in there, the safety equipment, saved that guy's life. So fortunately, hopefully he gets a speedy recovery, can get back after it. Now,
yeah, hopefully.
I'm going to jump down, and I'm going to jump down 1. So you said drivers don't really, there was some controversy. They don't want to add things. Drivers don't like change. Okay, period. When there's a rule change, drivers don't like it. The World of Outlaw guys were severely unhappy with the group rule last year. IMCA, I just saw this today. They announced their new rule changes for 2021. This is interesting. They announced that the front shocks and rear shocks will have a max length of 7 inches, rear shocks a max length of 9. But the biggest thing is no preloading of the springs. So right now the mod world they've gone to some pretty creative stuff on the front of these cars, pinning them down. They got creative with super soft springs and a lot of preload in the left rear. They've made, that's kind of the technology has taken over, and IMCA said, this is getting out of hand. Bam, it's done. So Ricky Thornton Jr. posted on there, and I messaged him a little bit. I said, well, what do you think? He's like, well, he goes, it's going to change some things for sure because, with our cars, we're doing some pretty funky things, but he goes, I guess it is what it is. We'll just have to figure it out. And, and he's exactly right. The cream's still going to rise to the top, but I talked to Buzzy Adams, and I said, Buzzy, what do you think? He goes, well, long-term, this is a good deal. It's going to make a lot of people, especially the ones from North Carolina, going to make them pretty unhappy because they got a lot more technology. And they've really put a lot of time, money, and effort into developing all this, but it's kind of making, it's not good for the sport long-term. So the people out there, as I talked to my buddy Johnny Broking, he's not real happy about it because he has a lethal, of course, from the North Carolina area, but they'll figure it out, And the one thing I'll say is this: sometimes that technology sets you back, right? Like I know that the lethal cars this past year in the modifieds, they went to some different zero indexing type stuff, and the cars that did that, they were terrible. The ones that were on their old package were better. So, I think this will put the driver back in, and I think that's a good thing to kind of get rid of some of this technology. I guess I'm kind of old school. Some people are going to be disappointed, but that's a big change. This is a big move in the modified world. And usually when IMCA starts something like this, you see WISSOTA, UMP, USRA, eventually down the line, they start to follow suit. So could this start a spiral effect with simplifying the suspensions on modifieds? And IMCA did it on all their classes. So that's it's a pretty big deal. So there's going to be some grumbling going on about this, and I'm going to see if I can maybe talk to a few drivers, specifically some IMCA guys, and kind of get their input so we can talk a little bit more about this next week after everybody has a week for this to kind of sink in. So I just want to add that in there. Now, another thing that came out this week is you're talking about new things. And I'm going to let you touch on this first. Did you see that deal called the Rev?
I saw something. I didn't look into it real close. My basic understanding is that fans can pay a fee and a driver of their choice will leave them a message or something to that effect. Is that correct?
Yeah. So a guy put together this platform, and I'm all about people being an entrepreneur. And I'm going to see if I can find the price point here. I don't know if I have it necessarily right in front of me or not. But needless to say, I don't have it. Give me 1 second here. Yeah, I don't have it in front of me. I've seen as low as like $10 or $20 for a different personality, for like a 15-minute little happy birthday shout out or whatever, up to like, I think the number was 500. It could be more for like a 30-second shout out from like Donnie Schatz, right? And see, I'm a racer promoter. I'm a fan too, but I'm not like, and nothing again. We need fans that are passionate and all that, but me, I'm more like I like to have an active role in it. And on the fan side of things, some fans are like super passionate. And I think back to WWE wrestling, you go to these different events and some of these fans are flat out like, wow. Okay. They are like all in. So there's clearly a market for it. But for me, I'm like, if somebody's going to spend $200, $300 for somebody to give me a happy birthday, I mean, kidding me? Like, just give me the money, right? I don't need you to spend $300 to have some dude send me a, 30-second little video message saying happy birthday. What's your thoughts as a fan? Is this something that would appeal to you? Is this good? Is it bad? What's your overall thoughts of this deal?
I mean, I don't think it's necessarily good or bad. I mean, it's definitely a way for whoever came up with this. I mean, they're trying to make money. I mean that's the bottom line. Would I pay for this service? No, not at all. I mean, I have better things I'd rather spend my money and go to a race rather than have a shout out from a driver. I mean, at most of the races you go to with these types of drivers, you can go in the pits afterwards and talk to them anyway. So I don't understand why you would want to pay for that. I mean, it reminds me a lot of, I was the editor of Sports Collectors Digest for a few years, and I worked in the sports collectibles industry for like 10 years. And to me, I kind of think it's similar to autograph collectors who will pay $200 to get an autograph from, their favorite NFL player. They'll pay an extra $50 to have a special inscription, like 2-time Super Bowl champion. You have to pay extra if you want that on the autograph. And to me, I never got it. To me, I always thought that was a waste of money. I mean, you're paying that type of money just to get a signature from that person. And, I just don't see the reason for paying a lot of money to get a message from somebody.
And I look at it, and I'm trying to see the good in it, but I don't. I'm all about somebody being an entrepreneur, making a little extra cash, being unique, trying something different. Hey, hats off for that. Great. But one thing in my mind that's always set apart dirt track racing from every other sport on the planet. I don't care if it's wrestling to football to hockey to baseball. I don't care, right? What set us apart was the ability to have that interaction with drivers, and not having drivers go, well, you're gonna have to pay me $20 for an autograph or what. You ain't got none of that, right? And there's enough people in the dirt racing world, I truly believe. I think we got some good folks in the dirt racing world that if you know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody, it's pretty – I would have to believe it's pretty easy to say, you know what, hey, can you just throw together a 20-second little happy birthday, man? It would mean a world to my kid or whatever. you're going to find somebody willing to do that for free, right? And the minute you got to start paying for this, well, what's next, right? What's next? See, that's what the question I have is, what's next? Right now, fans go down in the pits after the races, and they get pictures, and they get, they can stand by their driver and get a picture taken. Whatever, they can do all that stuff. You got to be careful with this kind of stuff, because it could get the ball rolling to where drivers become more like NASCAR, and you get to these. Imagine going, okay, you go to a NASCAR race, and you got to buy a special pit pass, a garage pass, and it's about impossible. Probably not now, because the fan count's a lot less, but for a while it was almost impossible to have access to the drivers, right? You literally kind of had to swoon in on them, and in the dirt track world, that's not the case. I mean, you go down to East Bay, for example, for the week of speed weeks down there, and you stick around. If you're there during the week, you can go meet with the drivers during the day. You can see them afterwards. There's nothing fenced off. It's just, you can just go chat with them, whatever, not a big deal. Well, is this going to start the ball rolling, or does it have the potential to start the ball rolling where that's just no longer the case, where they have, well, okay, now we're going to have an all-access deal where you can meet the drivers and you got to pay extra to get picked. I don't like the direction that's heading. It's too NASCAR-y, too commercial for me, and I think it's a bad deal. I think it's borderline greedy, and it's dangerous for the sport that we all know and love, in my opinion. So I'm going to leave it at that, because we'll see how this deal goes.
Well,
I can assure you that they're not going to go, Ryan, hey, you want to be a participant? Guy from the One to Go show, you want to be one of them guys? I'm sorry, but I just don't think anybody is going to spend $50 to get Ryan Aho to say happy birthday. I just don't think that's going to happen.
But they may spend $50 to have Ryan go on a rant about any topic they want.
Nice. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. The sad thing is, though, I'd probably do it for free. I just enjoy doing it. And that's the point of getting a lot of these. I'm telling you, a lot of these dirt track guys, they enjoy doing it. And some of them don't. Some of them are standoffish, right? But there's a lot of them that they love doing this stuff anyway. And I mean, let's be honest, the elite dirt track guys are not that far removed from the local racer. They're really not. I mean, you see World of Outlaws, Lucas Oil, them type of shows come into a local area where they have where they already have open late models, and guess what? Some of them local guys have beat them. So they ain't that special, right? I mean, it's just not, So I don't know. I think it's a step in the wrong direction. Hats off for the guy being creative, entrepreneurial. I get it, but it'll be interesting to see where this goes. Now, speaking of streaming stuff, some streaming platforms out there, they have the monthly deal where, you pay X amount a month, and if there's no real racing going on, they got to have some filler stuff. And did you see what Dirt Vision has going on?
No, I have not seen what they're doing.
They're still doing that iRacing stuff, and whatever. But I'm like, do people actually watch that? I mean, there's enough regular racing going on. Is there actually people that jump on Dirt Vision and go, oh, they're having the whatever late model race here or sprint car race, iRacing version? I can see when there was no racing going on, it's well, I got to have something to do. But now with sports going on and racing, do you think there's even a demand for that anymore?
I wouldn't think so, but I mean, I guess crazier things have happened. I mean, I'm not going to jump on to watch iRacing. I mean, like you said, when basically the whole country went down on a lockdown in the spring, I tuned in just to see what it was like, because there was nothing else to tune into. But yeah, I mean, NFL is going, there's other things going on that I wouldn't think there'd be now to actually do the iRacing. That's one thing, but to just sit there and watch it, I don't understand why there would be a demand for that.
Especially when you've seen people get just to take a good look at what happened with Kyle Larson, I think a lot of people are going to be going, and yeah, I don't know. I just, whatever. I guess it is what it is, but it was interesting to me when I was looking on Dirt Vision, I saw that. I'm like, really? It's kind of crazy. Now, one thing that was kind of cool, I follow Kenny Wallace on Facebook. Kenny Wallace, Herm is Herm, right? I mean, the guy's a hell of a lot of fun. He's got a lot of energy. The guy he's an ultimate showman, right? I mean, he's that guy that if he has a minute long, 2 minute, 3 minute long video, I'm watching it. I watch them all because he's entertaining. Usually got some pretty good content, and they were down at Gateway Raceway. I think that's right down by St. Louis. And he's like, hey, they had Christmas lights there. And I thought this was super cool for all you track promoters. And I can see James Trantina. So tag James Trantina in this. Let him know this is a good idea over at in Sauk Rapids, Minnesota at the, oh man, what is that place called now? They keep changing names on it. Granite City Motor Park, I believe is what it's called. They did a pretty cool deal with the candy toss and all that on Halloween. But they had a Christmas light display here to where they had it all set up. They had fence, they had music playing, they had Christmas lights, and pretty neat use of a racetrack to be able to kind of go through and have a Christmas display at the racetrack. I thought that was pretty cool. So jump on Herm's, Kenny Wallace, follow him on Facebook. Jump on there. You'll be able to check that out. But I thought that was a pretty cool deal. Did you see that?
No, I didn't. I'll have to make sure that I check that out and see what it looks like.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And we're gonna end with this, unless you have something you want to add. Eldora, they made a big announcement this week, and Keith said, "Make sure you get this in there because he's a sprint car." But what did they announce at Eldora?
They are going to have two of the, what's it called, the King's Royal event. So maybe they weren't lying when they said that it was just being postponed.
Yeah, I guess I made a big deal. It's like, I hate this word postponed. It's canceled. They didn't even have, well, no, Eldora, they're having it. So they're having, and it's actually kind of funny because it's back-to-back shows, and they're having, I don't remember what numbers it is, but they're having next year's first, and then this year's is going to be right after that. So they got the numbers kind of, it's just however they did it.
Yeah, got the I think it's the 38th annual is going to be Thursday night, and then the 37th annual is going to be Saturday night.
Yeah,
or something like that.
I think that's correct. Now, the question I have, and I can see this coming down the pipeline. I don't know that it's the case, but if they're willing to pay two back-to-back $175,000 to win shows for the sprint cars, I'm going to cross my fingers on this. Are they going to have two dreams? Are they going to have two World 100s? What's your thoughts?
If I were a betting man, I would say that is going to be the case. I mean, like you said, we don't know. But if I remember correctly, I don't know, it was probably a month or 2 months ago, Eldora Speedway had a tweet that kind of insinuated that everything was going to be doubled up in 2021. And we saw that, they announced the doubling for the big sprint car race. So my guess would be that they'll do it for the late model shows also. But like we said, we don't know that for sure yet.
Yeah, I guess time will tell. We'll probably find out sooner rather than later. And we'll end with this. One big late model show going on this weekend. $5,000 to win. Dryden Extreme Dirt Car Series. Bert, make your pick.
Oh, I'll go with Overton.
Okay, that's not fair. I was going to pick him, but that's a good pick. You don't want to go with him. He's been pretty hot lately. I don't even know if he's going to be there, but I believe he is because he won the series last year. I'm going to go with Chris Smokey Madden. He's been pretty darn good since he got it back into a rocket car. He looks like a race car driver again. So I think it's going to be a hell of a show. The feature, I'm not going to watch the whole program. Sorry, just not doing it. But so Bert has Overton. I have Madden. We'll find out this Saturday night. I believe that's on Flow. So with that said, hey, great visiting. Always good. It's always good talking racing.
Yep.
Episode 57 in the books. And like Luca says, hey, go out there and be your dream. I'm Ryan Aho. That's the Bert Lehman. We're the One to Go Show. We'll be back at you next week.